not we need to have committees, then we want everyone to be comfortable. But we're trying to think of things for them to do. And we went over it for two different meetings. What kind of tasks we give them, what kind of responsibility. And I think we were trying to fit a square peg in a round hole to some degree. And maybe these committees are just somewhat dated. They're not serving a purpose. And so we felt to better focus people on their chores and RTM member, maybe it's better to do it in that full committee environment. They can dedicate the time that they did with the subcommittees into the full committee. But I do think if we're to allow the creation of special committees or ad hoc committees, right, which we can and should be able to do, that either is done to the moderator, or we still keep in place the Special Legislative Management Committee. That committee not only appoints those who want to form a committee, but maybe that Special Legislative Management Committee has a task of listening to suggestions for forming committees, so that at least that gets taken off the moderator. So Special Legislative Management Committee, you want to form a new committee on whatever it is. Maybe it is an agenda item. Maybe it's an ordinance. It goes in front of the Special Legislative Management Committee. They then vote. We should probably have 5 people vote on it, and they appoint the members. Just thinking out loud here, because that would take away that responsibility or that burden, and yet we still have the functioning of committees.
See, I respectfully would disagree. I believe we should have an education committee, and we should be getting something from them every meeting. I mean, there's so much going on all the time that they should be between the budget right now. But I think some of these committees should stay. Aside from LNA.
I would love it if we had consensus, but on the other hand, we've talked a long time about this, so I'm wondering if we could take a vote as to whether people want to revisit it or want to stick with the vote we made before. Can we, I'll propose a motion to reaffirm our earlier vote, or we could take a vote again if Mark wants to vote against it, and maybe other people do. Alternatively, we could skip this section and work on marking up the other stuff, but I feel like we spent so many meetings talking about this that it's a shame to go backwards. I hear you.
I apologize, but I haven't felt comfortable since we had the vote.
No, you need to share that, and I see what you're saying.
You're here to voice your opinions, Mark, so that's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
To me, I always felt like that these things are there for a reason, and they should be functional, and they should be doing work. And my thought was that we just need to shift the way we use the committees, the way they are, something that is more helpful and, I don't know, just doing the work, and giving reports on whatever the subject matter is.
Yeah.
Josh had his hand up.
Yeah. So I guess I just want to make the other case, which is I feel like committees, aside from the issue which Ken mentioned, which I did say, which is I think there's some people on the body who might not be really efficient at presenting a summarized, point. I also think that it adds a layer between the body and the staff, and I think we should be pushing to hear from the staff. If the Department of Public Works wants to do something, I want to hear from the director of the Department of Public Works or whoever he puts in front of us. I want to ask the questions directly to them. I don't want to add a layer of the interpretation of one of my fellow committees, or the chair of that committee, or the secretary of that committee, or the appointed speaker for that committee. That enters into that person's own political views on that matter, as well as the big P politics of things. And I just feel like let's strip it down and get it straight from the horse's mouth and bring those staff in front of us. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah,
Thank you. Hang on a second. Ken has his hand up.
Yeah, I'll be brief, you know, for me, like coming into this, the biggest part of this whole thing was how we could make the committees workable. But you know, to Karen's point, we spent 2 meetings trying to figure it out, and we just couldn't come up with any kind of a workable method that we all felt would get people engaged, get them to do the work, and we have to deal with the realities as they are. That's why I think what we ultimately came up with, you know, getting rid of them, giving the moderator the ability to point a special committee when necessary, is workable. Because the reality is, if you got a special committee on a subject, people are probably going to raise their hand to be on it, right? So you're predisposed to have people who at least want to do something. So I think that's why, and again, I was one of the last people to come over, right? I think that's why what we agreed to is probably the best thing we're going to be able to come up with.
Yeah, I also was one of the last people. I did not think I would ever agree to not have committees or to
Yeah.
have very few. But I really do think with all the issues we talked about, I think the control issue, it's kind of a control issue, like Josh was saying, that I want to make my own decision based on what I hear from the first, you know, the main people involved, rather than rely on a committee report. So I think I'm still in favor of doing what we're doing. You know, LNA and I think we agreed on a capital planning committee and then a budget committee as needed. Did anyone else have a comment before? I think I will take a vote to see if we're ready to, you know,
I just
reaffirm.
have a quick comment, Karen.
Sure.
Um, Josh, I think you make some really, really good points. I think I agree with what you're saying in terms of hearing it from the horse's mouth versus a committee. I do understand what Mark's saying. The traditional way of doing business here in town for decades, it makes sense. It's like we want it to work. We want to do this. We want people to get involved. It really would be great if they became kind of subject experts. Ideally, yes. But I think we've seen, and you know, certainly Josh and I, from our extensive years on the RTM, we've seen that it's less and less and less involvement and engagement. And therefore, we're trying to fix that. So I hear what you're saying, Mark, but we have kind of moved down this path a little bit. We have discussed it a lot. We're trying to figure out how to do it. But to Josh's point, I want to hear what the experts say.
Yeah.
I did notice Marcy asked about putting this in front of the RTM. I would strongly advise against that because we're the ones who are spending all the time going through this, discussing it. We're already so neck deep in it. To open this up, we're going to get so many opinions all over the place from a lot of new members who don't even know what the structure used to be. At least we have some institutional knowledge with Josh and myself and Mark and Karen of being on this body for a while to know what did work, what didn't work, where we're going with it, how it's evolving. I just wouldn't open it up. That's the whole purpose of the small committees, to kind of go through it. That's just my opinion to your question.
Yeah,
Also, remember, Mark, that the moderator, if we start doing this, it works, you know, we see how it works, and people generally think, oh, we really miss those old committees. The moderator can always ask to have a committee formed that may not be a standing committee, but if we feel there's really a need for an education committee or whatever, it's not like it's irreversible.
yeah, I just want to say that I never said, or I never heard anybody say that we weren't going to hear from the experts on the agenda.
Mhm.
And I don't know where that kind of crept in somewhere, in for other people, but I don't recall us even, I mean, saying that we weren't going to hear from Bill Hurley, that we were only going to hear from the committee. So I think maybe that's where I'm confused, because I never heard, or I never said, we're not going to hear it from the horse's mouth.
So I think we did toss it around. I don't think we ever settled on that. I agree. That was not one of the things. But
you know what, we you know what, I would say let's just move on out of this area for now. We already voted on it. It is what it is. I'm not going to change anybody's mind. So
Okay, I'm glad you shared that though, Mark, because it makes us think about it again. And, you know, we need to know, you have very deep experience, so we need to know your thoughts.
Good.
Okay, well, why don't we, since committee, are we ready to work on the committee section then? Well, I think we talked about two standing committees, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, and I did get a few comments from Colin, and one was that he thought only LNA should be a regular committee, but I thought we also thought that a capital planning committee should be a permanent committee. Any thoughts on that? Which standing committee, if any, which standing committees we have?
You also voted for the budget review committee. But that would be every,
Right,
you know,
thank you.
in December as well.
Yeah. Does everyone feel that that's what we were talking about? Or,
And the
Yeah,
capital,
I think so.
the capital review committee would report quarterly or something to the body on the status of capital planning and waterfall stuff, that kind of thing, right?
and also projects we've approved to see
Oh,
what
right.
are happened to them.
Right.
Does that make
And
sense?
Karen, the good,
Yep.
and what makes sense with having these three standing or two standing is that it allows those members who do have time and desire and passion to get more involved and to work hard and roll up their sleeves, gives them that opportunity. But it
Mhm.
doesn't also force or obligate everyone to if they can't, because we
Right.
can get good members who are busy with work and have very little time, but to get even that little time on this body is important. That's all.
Mhm.
It's a nice balance.
Yeah, I think that's true. So let me know. I'm going to start writing and can everybody see okay? See
Yes.
this?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Three standing committees. The numbers won't work anymore. Now, we talked about having, probably not with LNA, but perhaps with the other two, just having anybody who's interested be on the committee regardless of party. Is everyone comfortable with that versus having a balance?
I think we want to get people who want to do it. So if it's,
Yeah.
7 Democrats and no Republicans, I'm totally fine. If it's 7 Republicans and no Democrats, I'm totally fine with that. I want people who will be engaged, who want to do it and want to get involved,
Yeah.
regardless of affiliation.
And what about size? We don't care if it gets too big.
Yeah. Do you want to limit the size so it's doable and manageable and
I think
not
that is
just a
smart.
talk session?
Yeah, I think that's
We need to limit the size.
a reasonable. Yeah, I think that's a
Mhm.
reasonable request, and I think maybe we should make a rule, if you guys think so, to determine let's say we set the size at 7, and let's say we get 10 people raise their hand, then the selections are based on seniority in the body, something like that.
Mhm.
I think that's
Yeah.
where politics comes into play. And I think if we're going to limit the size, we probably have to allow for some minority representation
Mhm.
because
Do you want 4 from each?
it's
Yeah.
going to be hard on the minority party if they don't get on this committee because they don't have the seniority
Yeah.
to get the top 7 or something.
That's
So
true.
how would you structure then, Josh, a scenario where, let's say it's 7 people, right? 10 people raise their hands, they want to do it. How would you propose making the selection?
I don't know.
Mm.
I mean, you could do like 4 and 3. The majority party has 4, the minority party has 3, or you split it 3 and 3 and 4 and 4. Because it doesn't, there's no intention of making this political, but that's one way you could do it if you have an odd number. Or to just do 4 and 4 for 3 and 3. And then that special legislative management committee would decide who goes on it. I mean, that's one of the jobs of that SLMA.
It's tricky if we're doing this by an expression of interest, because you may have 6 Republicans who want to be on the committee and 1 Democrat who wants to be on it. So it may be
Yeah.
hard to stick to the allocation.
Well, that's why I was thinking like seniority. It's nonpartisan. It's just a fact, right?
Mhm.
And that's why like the senior most members get first crack at the committee. I mean, that's kind of like what they do in Congress anyway. The senior most members get first crack at this kind of stuff.
So
Mhm.
could we add in a layer of like based on interest with priority going to based on seniority and ensuring that there is some minority representation if there's interest from a minority party or something like that. Just to so with seniority is one of the factors, but also like also a minority party representation, like one, I don't know how many of these, how big these, what number we're setting, but if it's 7, do we say, you know, up to 3 reserved for interested minority party members or something?
I think so, yeah.
What do we think, 7 or 8?
Well, odd is good when you're taking votes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think you need to have an odd number.
Hey, what are you doing?
I think Mark had his hand up.
Oh, hi, Mark. Go ahead.
Hi, I should put it in the, but, concerning seniority, I think I get what you're saying, but this is where we disenfranchise people, the new people that want to be involved and they don't get selected and then they don't run again, or you're like, why am I here? So it's, for me, that's a tough
Yeah.
one to swallow. I can't, you know, because I know in our own caucus, we have a lot of very talented people, a lot of them are new and they want to be doing more. And, you know, it like everything does always go to the more senior people, the more experienced people. So, you know,
How
we
would you
want,
how would
we
you
want
propose
people
doing
to
it
want
then?
to do this, right? We want people to want to do this.
Yep, yep.
Not-
I'm totally
not-
open.
not
I
sit
just threw that
there.
out there, so I'm totally open to.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
not, you know, I don't think we should limit it by, oh, well, you just got elected, you know what, we're gonna put Joe Schmo on it because he's been here for 42 years. You know, I don't think you want to, I don't think you want to put that in writing that, where that, you
Yeah.
know, that it's gonna go to, you know,
I agree. I feel the same way, Mark. And
just
also,
don't, you know, it's not,
we probably want to look at skills, like say the
not very
budget
democratic.
committee. The budget committee, you know, we want to have people who understand how to read a budget and finances and stuff. So if there's, you know, junior people who do and senior people who don't, it seems if there's a limit, we should go for the people with the skills, I would think.
So we're keeping the SLMC, right? Let's make this the SLMC.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I think if the SLMC decides, remember, there's 2 different types of committees here. One is LNA. They actually will vote, right? The other 2 committees aren't voting. They're research and you know, looking into findings. It's a budget committee and a capital planning. So why not have 8 people on each of those? And it's equal, you know, essentially anyone who wants to, but it will be determined by SLMC as long as there is minority representation. Maybe out of 8 members, at least 3 need to be from the minority party. LNA is a different beast. LNA should be 7. It's not a research entity. It's a committee that's making decisions, and it's the sort of the first initial glance at legislation and other things, where that should be a 4 and 3 as determined by SLMC, and that usually is the more senior members. It just historically has been. They're having to decide on important things that the rest of the body has to look at. So I would say that probably would be more senior members, LNA, and that the other 2 committees, to Mark's point, could be a freshman member. They don't necessarily have to have budget experience. They have to have willingness to be involved, to learn. But the SLMC would determine who those members are. And I would think the SLMC would say, out of a committee of 8 on the budget committee, let's get 2 senior members. Let's get 3 senior members. Let's bring 2 new members in. So anyone who's interested puts in their name. The SLMC makes that determination, and it's done bipartisanly. I think that's the way around that. And then you can get some freshman member. Because I agree, if a freshman member wants to be part of it and they want to throw their hat in the ring, absolutely. And anyone can read a budget. I mean, it's not like this is rocket science, in my view. So I think we can have it all ways that we're talking about. But LNA is the voting committee, and I'd make that odd number.
Okay.
That's my opinion. But you guys, obviously, whatever you think too.
So we already have an established policy for how we create committees, right? Why do we have to rework this wheel, or can we just use what's been already established?
I think we should use what's been established, personally. I guess we just give them some guidelines like we're trying to do, but
Yeah.
so, I mean, it's easier if we just say no more than 7, but we could do it. I don't really feel strongly whether one is 7 and one is 8 or whatever. If anyone has any views.
I think the voting committee should be odd.
Yep.
And otherwise, you know, I have no issues with 8 on the non-voting committees.
Mm.
Fine.
Yep.
Okay. Standing committees. So it's Committee on Legislation and Administration, Capital Planning, which shall be what's the word?
It consists of no more than 8 members or something.
Well, yeah, I'm also wondering
it's
what we
manageable?
say it does. Let's work about the members in a minute because I'm on I got home from Paris, lucky me, on Monday night. So right now it's like 1 a.m. So I'm sorry, I'm a little slower than
That's all right.
I
All right.
usually am.
We don't
Little
feel
though.
bad for you, Karen, coming
I
back
know.
from Paris.
For me, it's a violin going, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Capital Planning Committee, which shall be like I want to say be aware of, but be educated
Stay
about.
abreast of, or
Yeah, that's good.
stay abreast of ongoing capital projects. I'm just again thinking out loud.
In the
Both the
capital
planning,
plan.
both the planning and execution of capital projects, right? Because it's the planning of them, the budgeting of them, and the execution of them. I don't know, and you know how they're faring is kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Should we use the language that's already in the rules and just say shall have cognizance of, and then delineate ongoing capital projects and planning, financing, execution, and status of them?
Mm-hmm. That sounds right.
So we have continuity.
Yeah. Cognizance of ongoing capital projects, including the planning, financing, execution, and status of those projects.
And we can put this language in for now and
Yeah.
alter it a little bit. Yeah, it's like placeholder language.
Yeah.
We also like to know, you know, is the project done? How did it end up, and how it's doing? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying we have to go and get like, hey, how's that project we did 3 years doing? But I don't know. Maybe there's like the 6 months after it's constructed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or so there's a
Right.
time limit, because otherwise it could be overwhelming too.
Yes.
Just you know,
See,
putting some sort of
that's where I go back to having the committees we have, because Jeff, you and I toured Fairfield Ludlow High School, Roger Ludlow School. Well, we toured the weight room and all that other stuff,
Yep.
but you know, we toured the field, and you know, finally, what's that? 3 years ago, finally, that's been dug up and
yeah,
things are happening. But
yeah,
that's why
yeah. That's a good point, Mark.
the Recreation Committee should have been reporting on the status of that. You know,
I agree.
That's why I'm saying
You're
these
right.
committees should have been doing. I mean, partially, maybe it's my fault but we weren't doing it. You know, nobody's been doing it for years, right?
Yep.
That's my point. Like, these things should have
Yep.
been being reported on all along. You know, the Dwight thing should
It's great.
be reported on by the Education Committee all along. You know, Mill Hill should have been reported on. They finished. It came in under budget. Whatever. You know, it's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Karen,
So the planning,
scroll up
financing,
to the first, yeah, right there.
Mhm.
Did you want to put each committee shall have no more than 7, or did you want to take that out and then put it expressly, the membership number in each line?
I don't feel strongly either way, so I can do that here.
So like, yeah, so like LNA, I think we're going to do 7, capital planning and budget, we were going to say 8, right?
But 7 with minority representation, and we just want to spell out what that is. Is it 3? I mean, would make sense, right? 4-3 split.
Or is it proportional with the split of the body?
Right.
Yeah, I think
Well-
I think it's proportional with the split of the body.
Which is now, right? I guess it is. Yeah, it is right now because there's just Ken and I on LNA.
No, is it?
Yes.
Oh, it is just you guys. Right.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you can do it that way, Josh. Or do we make it 4 and 3? I don't know. I mean,
I mean, I'll be honest, like in today's environment, Jeff, you know, there's 9 of us, and let's say there were a couple special committees, or it's gonna like I'm not serving on like 3 committees. I can tell you that much.
right.
So
Yeah, it's a good point.
so I think it should be proportional, and I think there should also be language there that if it I don't know how you say this, like if either the majority or the minority is not capable of fulfilling its spots, then they're appointed at the discretion of SLMC, something to that effect.
Mm.
But Ken, flipping that on its head in terms of, okay, you do representation proportional. So if it's 6 and 2 on LNA, that's more work for you and me versus having it 5 and 4 or 4 and 3. There's another member, even if it's a small minority party, the 3 members can share the work as well, because just to your point, that's more work potentially for us. So I don't know. I think for LNA, it's the only committee we're talking about that has any voting. I would just make it a 4-3. I don't know. I guess I could be convinced, but it just seems like if that is the only committee out there and there's the representation we have now, or let's say it's the opposite, and to only put 2 members on that important committee and it's 5-2, that's, I don't know. I think it should be 4-3 or 5-4.
I hear what you're saying. To me, though, it's just like at some point, it's just a numbers game, right? So if you want to say 4-3, and again, put in language like if either side is unable to fulfill its designated slots, then SLMC fills it at their discretion. Then I'm totally fine. I'm totally fine with that.
What does anybody else think?
I think proportional is what we've done, and it feels right to me. I've been in the minority, although I think I was on a 12 member minority, not quite 9, but even at 12, it was pretty small.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, it was proportional. And I know we don't have we're not filling the whole body across all we're not giving everyone a committee assignment, so it's not maybe necessary to do it proportional.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, if a party wins a certain proportion of the body, then they have won a certain proportion of the body, right? And they should get all the trappings that come with that. And that would be the one
Mm-hmm.
committee that does have some actual substance to it. They should earn that proportion. But I don't have strong feelings. That's just kind of where I come out of.
No, Jeff, I think you're right. I think you're
Yeah.
right. I think proportional makes sense. And again, just put language in there. If either side can't fill it, then it's at the discretion of the.
Yeah, I don't think if we're gonna have one committee that's voting, it should be proportional. That's just my opinion. So I would not agree with that. I think it's one committee. It's an important committee, and it's a small group of the body, anyways. And so therefore, a minority party, whether it's 9, 5, or 19 people, they can have 3 members on that LNA committee. That is an important committee. It elevates the importance of LNA. And I think if not only the body is somewhat lopsided, but also LNA is, then yeah, I mean, we could say it's the trappings of the thing, but we're not talking about everyone has an opportunity because there's all these committees. We're talking one voting committee. So it's going to be sort of an elite group anyways. Well, let's make that a little more equal. Majority party certainly gets that 4th one, but for the reason we talked about, sharing the workload among a small minority party. And again, we're looking at the extreme. Our present situation is the most extreme I've seen in my lifetime. So I don't want to use this as the thing that's going to be in place forever. At least I hope not. I don't think proportional, if we're going down to one committee, is fair.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yeah, Sharon, hi.
I was just wondering, like, if
Just can you
at certain points
Let
you
me
can
just
like
say,
recognize.
hang on. This is Sharon Castilli, who's a current member of RTM, for anyone who's listening or will listen later. I'm sorry, Sharon, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I was just wondering if at certain points along the way you could ask if the public could be recognized or how to be recognized in this meeting, because
Mhm.
I'm not on the committee, and like there are certain points at which I had something to contribute and I just don't know how to be recognized.
Okay, yeah, for some reason I'm having trouble seeing messages. I saw something pop up from you. I think you said you had a comment on LNA.
Yeah, so I agree with the 4-3.
Mm,
And
I have a comment too. Sorry. Go ahead.
okay. Um,
Go ahead,
anything
Sharon.
more,
Why?
Sharon?
Why? So
Yeah,
why do you think that? Why do you?
Sharon.
I agree with the 4-3 because it's a voting body, and I agree because it elevates the committee, and like on the other committees, if we're not going to have them be voting committees, then it doesn't really. We want minority representation, but the balance doesn't matter as much. But I think that it should be. I don't think we should put anything about seniority in writing. I think that should be up to leadership, and it should be decided on SLMC. And I think that SLMC should also be important, and like coming to SLMC meetings should be important so that we can discuss stuff like that, like who we're putting on which committees there. And I think, I think that's how we should manage it, because yeah, it should be a balance between seniority and experience, because, like as a body on the whole, we have a group of really senior people that would, that might take up the seats for a generation if we don't mix it up. So I don't think we should put seniority in writing.
Mhm.
All right,
Okay.
thanks. But
Thank
how
you.
else, like if I wanted to make a comment in the future, how would you want me to be how to ask to be
Sharon,
recognized?
I've got the comment section up here.
We'll
so
all see
I'll
it.
see it.
We'll
Yeah,
see it.
so
Okay, yeah,
I'll see
just
it if you do.
let me
Okay.
know. I think
All right,
because
I just want to make sure I was doing the right thing. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry because I don't know why I can't see it.
Yeah, I
Because
think
you-
Marcy had her
you're in
hand up.
Paris and you're
I-
tired.
Yeah.
I have my hand up too. I asked to be
Yeah.
commented to.
Go ahead, Marcy.
Okay. I actually think it should be proportional to the representation on the body, like Ken and Josh were saying. And I think for two reasons. One, to Jeff's point, he was saying that it's more work for Ken and him if he was on there, but I don't understand why it would be more work. You guys are doing the same work. You're reviewing it together. You all should review, for instance, if it's an ordinance and you're reviewing it to vote it out of committee, you're not going to be like, well, you take the first third of the ordinance and you take the second, middle, and the last. No, you're all reading the whole entire ordinance. And you should also be able to rely on somebody that's not in your party to give you some of the information and the facts that they might be able to have from that. So I don't think it's more work for the minority party. And again, I think that's what we were elected, whoever was elected. That percentage should go through to the LNA committee, because those types of things that are going to go for a vote through there might be ordinances that are important to the people in the town. And I think that their vote should reflect that. So I think it should be according to, if there's 75% Republican and 25% Democrat, I think that's how the LNA should be as well.
Okay, interesting.
Karen, do we want to vote on that, or do we have
I think
more
I think-
discussion?
Well, hold on. I think I want to respond to one thing, because it was said that it's not as great of work on two of us. I mean, we're the ones going through it. It is more work when it is just two of us. If you have a third person, you can divide and conquer a bit. You can do one person can tackle one issue, another person can tackle another, and we can come together as a group of three. But of course, it's more work if it's just two of us. And I think going forward, that's putting, it's quite a lot of work for Ken and me now on LNA. I mean, I'm going to be honest. You guys have 6 people, so let's just be a little more even in regards to that element. It has nothing to do with politics. I'm not even trying to get there. it actually makes it a little more even on, as you know, even Sharon said, on a committee that's the only voting committee. It gets another person involved, who wouldn't normally be otherwise. And so anyways, I think it's more work than just than you're saying.
Okay, yeah, I kind of, I have trouble seeing that too, though, that it's more work, but I do think maybe we should take a vote on this. So, can someone make a motion to, decide whether this should be proportionate to the number of the parties, on the body, or it should be 4-3? Let's say the motion is, does this need to be proportionate to the membership need to be proportionate to the party distribution on the body?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Second, anybody?
I'll second it.
Okay. So the motion is yes. If we say yes, it's got to be proportionate to the membership distribution. Okay. Any discussion? All right. All in favor of that, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Assuming Jeff is Jeff opposed? No? Everyone's in favor of proportionate? Okay. Can you all hear me?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Okay. I'm surprised. I thought Jeff would vote differently, but
I don't
So that
understand.
was
you
unanimous.
speaking in French.
it was unanimous, eh?
Wait, I'm sorry. Oh, did you not hear me? Maybe I was on mute.
You were
I
on
was
mute. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am against
Okay.
going. I'm for 4-3.
Okay.
So-
Anybody else I didn't hear? No. Okay. So that motion passes and we'll make it proportionate, which I think is what.
And we should include some language, to the extent practicable, right? Because I mean,
Yeah.
we can't take fractions of people, right? So it's going to have to be,
Yeah.
SLMC is going to have to use some judgment there.
Yeah, that existing language said the membership of the committee shall, where possible, reflect the proportional representation. So I think that does it.
Where possible, but also like proportionality, like we have a body of 40
Mhm.
and a committee of 7, proportions may not be exact, right?
Mhm.
We have to say something about like
The approximate proportional representation.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay. All right, and then
We just to and maybe there'll be another place for this, but can we also just include language somewhere that, again, if neither side is able to fulfill its legislated allotment, that it's at the discretion of SLMC.
you don't feel like that's incorporated in this where possible?
I think we should spell it out. I just think we're better off if we specifically, in essence, create the rule on how it should be, on how seats should be, or spots should be filled in the event that, one party can't fill all of its spots.
Okay. I'm just going to write something down to get that idea across. It's not going to be
Okay.
very graceful.
Well, yeah. In what situation would we not be able to fill the spots? I don't know. I don't think.
Well, again, Jeff, again, in like today's environment where there's only 9 of us, we may have, we may not have enough. If we're entitled to 2 slots, maybe we don't have 2, or maybe, on the Democrat side, they don't have 5, right? They don't have 5 people that want to do it. They only got 4. So in that case, if there's a Republican who wants to do it, the SLMC can make that determination. That's all I'm saying. Nothing to do with the proportionality per se. It's just if sides can't fill their designated slots, then SLMC has the discretion to fill them.
Yeah, I mean, if this is the one actual committee that votes, and
I don't think that's going to be an
Slots
issue.
weren't able to be filled, I'd be pretty surprised.
That'd be a problem.
That would be a problem.
Okay, yeah, I think I think it'll be implicit in the where possible approximate language that they have discretion.
Okay, I'm fine.
Okay,
Karen, can I raise something else on this item?
yes,
A here.
sure.
Looking at the list of the matters that LNA takes on, it doesn't look like exactly what we've been doing.
Yeah,
Maybe that's on me, I don't know, but do we want to consider this? We have not really been taking a first pass at labor settlements, property conveyances, leases, legal matters, as we do.
right,
So
yeah.
is this what we want? Are we upping LNA's game here, or do we want to try and make it sort of what we've been doing?
I think based on, Josh, I hadn't really looked carefully at that sentence, but yeah, I think you're right. I think we want to focus it on what it's currently doing.
I think that's probably true. I mean, the way it's written, you'd need a committee full of lawyers. It's all legal stuff.
Right.
And we don't do most of it. So it's really going to be just about ordinances, I guess, right? Is that pretty much?
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
As far as
yes.
like collective agreements for the Board of Education, the clock starts. So technically, you don't have a long time to review a collective bargaining agreement in committee. So,
good point.
You may want to take some of this out. And also, do you want to use the term where possible, practical for the membership?
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
And I mean,
It's
we
a
did
worded
used
way.
to, LNA, back in the day, we did used to get legal reports from the town. I think we talked about this in a previous meeting, but it really was just FYI. But it wasn't like we were passing any judgment on them or contributing to the process. And I think that's why it kind of faded away. But yeah, at this point, it's really just ordinances that were.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'd even really want to be responsible for property conveyances and things like that, legal matters. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, so I think I agree that it should just be ordinances because that's what we do.
Yep. I would agree with that.
And just to say ordinances in any legal matter. I mean, or certain legal matters, so it keeps it open.
Yeah.
We don't want to also limit
Yeah.
the authority of this committee and just keep it ordinances. Then it might as well just be an ordinance committee. It's tackling a few things.
I mean, Jeff, you wanted originally to have a commissions or committee appointed, so that should probably stay in there.
What's that, Mark? With what?
You originally had in your list of, when we were talking about different committees, you had a committee appointments or commission appointments.
Right.
Committee appointment that come before us, so that should probably, wherever it is up there, stay in there.
For LNA?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But we don't.
I had appointments, building committee appointments, and just other appointments. But I think we had talked about we weren't going to have a committee on that. It was an idea, because the whole body wants to interview or hear from the person. But I
don't know if you wanted to keep it in there.
I'm whatever you want to do on that. I'm fine. I'm open to it.
By the time we get the person, it would be great if we were part of the initial discussions about the nominees, but
yeah, I'm just saying that's something that Jeff had pointed out before, but
it's true.
Yeah, I had suggested a separate appointments committee that instead of, once it comes from the Board of Selectmen, that it comes in front of the full RTM, but that appointment committee, whether it's building committee appointments or housing or whatever, that committee gets that first review and interview with that person, just to take some of the workload off others. And I think we decided against it, but I'd totally be up for it.
Mhm.
Because it's a process of how do we share that with the first selectman's office? How do we get a list of all the candidates, and then they got to come through us, and it might even be I don't know if it's a charter issue, but it's another layer.
Yeah. I don't know. Anybody else feel that that
Ultimately
should be
consider it. Yeah.
here? Okay.
Yeah.
maybe
So
we-
I'm not, either way, I don't care. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Capital Planning Committee, which shall have cognizance of, okay, I think we did that, and there shall be 8 members, right?
Yeah.
And this is where I put that language of attempts to make this, bipartisan, or,
Mhm.
as many as possible, but no more than 8.
Yeah.
But there should at least be minority representation on this.
Well, we don't know who's interested, though.
Well, let's say there's 12 people who want to do it, and there's
Mhm.
8 Republicans and 4 Democrats, or vice versa. We just would want to make sure that it's not all 8 Republicans or all 8 Democrats.
Why don't we just do
Because
the
that
same
wouldn't be
thing
right.
we did for the LNA? Proportional representation where practicable.
I think Jeff saying maybe here we make it more even because they're not voting anyway,
Yeah.
which
And
I
it
think,
gets more people involved, which was Mark's point. You might get some new legislators who want to be part of it,
Okay.
you know? Yeah, it's not a voting committee, so like representation, I don't think matters.
The only
This is
thing that
more like,
I don't disagree, but I'm just thinking it through, and if they're going to make a presentation to the body, and there was a political, let's say there was a split, a major split in the town, and maybe it was falling on party lines, and how that gets presented to the body could become a political animal, right?
mm-hmm,
could be.
that's true.
It could be, but on that same point, so let's say that presentation it's now 8-4 Republicans or Democrats, whoever we want to say, that one party will slant it anyways and present to the whole body their view. And now you're hearing a I'm not going to say distorted, but a specific political angle on what was just uncovered at the capital planning meeting. That's why just making this even would be fair, especially if
Yeah,
there's a
I
reporting
agree,
element.
but it just means now you have a committee that's going to have to do what we're doing and try to be really unanimous, which is great for us, but for this committee, they're going to have to be
Yeah.
practically unanimous on everything that they write in their monthly, quarterly report, right? I mean, I don't know. It could be, there could be times when that's really challenging for that committee.
Also, to Ken's point, you're like in your current situation, I don't think you have enough people unless they double, they duplicate the committees to
Mm-hmm.
fill all these. You're gonna have to have 3 in A, and then you'd have to have 4 and 4. So you'd have 11, you need 11 members to populate this unless you duplicate. So let's see.
See, I see for these two, like capital planning and budget, I
Mhm.
just want people who want to do it.
Yeah.
Right. That's all I care about. I just want people who have an interest, want to get involved. And you know, how we get to that point,
Mhm.
to me, it doesn't matter. I just want people who
Yeah.
want to do it. Right. So maybe we put language in there, representation shall be at the discretion of SLMC, provided each party is represented. Something to that effect.
Mhm.
And we know that SLMC is going to have a majority of the majority party, right? So that is to some extent giving the majority, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just acknowledging that that does give power to the majority party to fulfill that committee.
Mhm. Mhm. Do
Karen,
we say
I didn't read the Westport. It said something in there about nonpartisan something.
Yeah, that's because they are actually a nonpartisan RTM. They don't
They don't
run.
run by party, right?
Yeah. So there was that one phrase about, we're gonna conduct ourselves and do our work on a nonpartisan basis, which is, I don't know how that happened, how that works, but that's a great goal to have.
Yeah.
But can we change that to just say ensure that both parties are represented equally? Again, it's make an effort. And if they
Well,
can't,
I
if
don't
we
think,
again we're in our current situation now, we're like, no, we can't find anyone, then it just
Mhm.
reverts to the other party can put in more. But like, can't we make an effort to do that? This is a non-voting.
what
The
do
effort's made
the
to make
other,
equal representation.
what do the other folks here?
To just say equally, represented
No,
equally.
I know what you're
Oh.
saying. I'm not sure that we've all agreed on that. That's why I'm asking.
I'm fine with that as long as we have as long as there's an ability to place additional members if either party can't make its commitment, then that makes sense to me, and it's probably workable, because let's say in our current environment it was 4-4, we might only get a couple of Republican members willing to step up
I
anyway,
understand
right?
that, but it's not always going to be this.
No, I know, but so as long as there's an ability for like the SLMC to fill those additional spots with people who want to do it, then I'm fine with that. So trying to make it as nonpartisan as possible, that works for me.
Mark and Josh, what do you think? I think Josh, you were saying you think it should be proportionate, right?
I think I'm seeing that this thing is a problem, because what is the role of the capital planning committee? What is its role? Is it going to be watching these projects and reporting back to the RTM? That part I think is like, whatever happened with this project? Is it done? How much did we actually bond? All those kinds of questions I think that's great. But planning, financing, and execution and status of projects, cognizance of ongoing capital projects, this is going to get political. Not every time, not everything, but there's going to be times when this becomes a very political committee, and we're talking about a Dwight situation or something, and it's going to turn into I think we might. I'm sort of going beyond the question you asked me, Karen. And I'm just sort of thinking, like, what are we setting people up to do here? And maybe the mission of this committee should be clarified a little bit. I'm worried that this is going to become like a chance for people to get on their soapbox and make their pitch.
Yeah, but Josh, they don't vote on anything, right? So I understand what you're saying, but at the end of the day, it's really just an oversight committee to report on what's going on. To me, there shouldn't be an over political objective in that, because you're simply stating what's going on and making sure the RTM as a body is aware of that. That's how I would see that.
It's the reporting side that Josh is referring to. So it's reporting back. How's that going to be done? Can it be slated? Yes, if it's just reporting on the facts, 100%. This is what happened. This is the status. Yeah, it should all be factual. There really shouldn't be anything but factual in this committee.
Right. That's what I like.
This
Even
is an
like
opinion,
I can,
yeah.
yeah, like I can understand, like somebody may have a bent or something like that, but at the end of the day, the facts are what they are, and I don't know that they would be overtly political. To Jeff's point.
How about this as a compromise that, to the extent practical, there shall be one more member of the majority party than any other parties? Something like that, like 5. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was saying with LNA. If you just had a majority, like a 4-3, or like, I think, back to what I was making the case with LNA. We're talking 3 committees here. One is a voting committee. The majority party that's fine. Even on these research committees, I'd be fine with that. Like, it doesn't have to be half and half, but I just think when you have proportional representation. I mean, the situation we're in now, obviously, it's two of us. It's just two of us, and it could be flipped at some point in the future. It could be worse. It could be better. But I think just to have a straightforward 4-3 on any of these committees would make sense. If if either party cannot fill that, to Ken's point, then that gets filled by the other body. I mean, is that not fair? I mean, I know what you're saying about the trappings, but the trappings are in the full vote. Like if one party has a substantially larger majority than the other, they're going to win out on the floor every time anyways, or most likely. I think we're talking the committees here, especially these kind of research committees, capital planning and budget. It should either be equal or, yes, you can have a majority by one, but there's got to be minority representation on that.
Yeah, so let me chime in because I differ with Jeff on the LNA because I do think, one, it is a voting committee. There is obviously more of a political influence, right? But I think on these other two committees, like I said, these at the end of the day should just be oversight committees. The facts are going to be what the facts are going to be, and I'm totally fine with making it as fair as possible. Again, as long as there's the caveat, if either side can't fill seats, then the SLMC has the discretion to fill those seats.
Mark, what do you think?
I mean, I agree with Josh. If you look at some of these things, like let's say the ARPA money for Rooster River, and you may have 5 people on that body that were like, that's my neighborhood, and we're getting screwed, and we don't need to get that. We don't want to hear that spin, right? Like it needs to be nonpartisan reporting on the facts. I know the facts don't matter in this day and age, but that's what it's.
Yeah, but Mark, if somebody came out, along those lines, starting to express their opinion, and maybe not in such direct language as you were saying there, but I would think the rest of the body could kind of figure that out, right? I mean,
well, then what, the moderator gonna cut him off?
Well, I mean, you just factor that into your evaluation as a member of the body, and so if you know that somebody lives, up near the Rooster River project, yeah, they probably have a certain bias towards it. But again, it's the facts are what the facts are going to be, right? It's this project. This is how much it's going to cost. This is how long the town is thinking it will take. This is how they plan on paying for it, and do it that way.
Marcy, you have a comment?
If everyone on the committee is gone, a few things. So I'm just concerned about the work of the minority party, that they just don't have enough people to do the work, and they're really spreading themselves thin. I don't know that you even need to put any type of party representation in this. I think you could make it a body of 8 that will be filled by SLMC, and that essentially is letting the majority decide that, so I mean, maybe at least have some representatives from both parties. So you obviously wouldn't want someone to stack it all 8 of one party, but I don't know that it needs to be defined, because let's just say you might even have 4 people from the minority party that have more skill in that area that I don't think it should. And then I think the moderator could, I'm kind of confused, who's reporting? If this is an 8-body committee, who's reporting? One person from the committee? That one person could be the majority person. So they're going to obviously, if there is any political favor it the way that they want to do that. But I think also that they should just be asked to present the facts. And if they're not presenting facts and they're presenting opinions, then the moderator has the right to cut that person off.
Okay, that's good. Those are good points. Josh?
I think B and C are fraught as heck. I think these are a mistake. I think for the same reasons we decided not to do committees, we're just setting up another couple of committees that are probably even worse than in terms of the problems that are going to occur than the ones we got rid of, because they don't really have a mission. This is going to be a bunch of people. There's going to be one person who actually does the work. They may have an axe to grind in a particular situation, maybe not always. I'm not going to be, probably not going to be on the body, but I don't really want to hear my fellow people tell me about capital planning. I want to hear the CFO. I want to hear the select person. I feel like we're just adding layers of non-experts who are going to squabble over these issues, who are going to not get every fact perfect, who are going to have access to grind. I think B and C, I make a motion to strike B and C.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? That's,
I agree with Josh. I think we're right back to where we were,
Yeah.
trying to form
Yep.
committees, and we're trying to create roles, and these are not defined. How is the report going to be written? How is it going to be delivered? What is the process? And then to Josh's point that yes, you're still going to listen to the experts. There's all of this that we've talked about tonight. This doesn't take away we're going to hear from the experts, which was Mark's question about our intention. Of course, we're going to hear from the experts, but do we now need to hear the opinions of all the different members, which we're going to hear about anyways when they make their points at the committee in the full meeting? So that's my way of saying I'm rethinking this, and I don't think it's baked enough to do this. I think it's fraught with some problems. And one other solution, unless you have a 2 or a 4 person committee, because then the 2 or 4 people could really work together. They could call, they could have little meetings. 4 people could be doable. 4 people. You don't need 8. We don't need 8 on these. It's just like, hey, you want to be on the committee and learn more, and that's fine. But if the real purpose is to not do what Josh is saying, is create this tension and everything else, then I think 2 to 4 people could potentially work. So I just want to throw that out there.
I agree with Josh. I think what he said makes perfect sense now that I think about it as well.
I'd like to ask the moderator, Marcy Spalier, because I think the budget committee might have been your suggestion in one of our meetings. Was that
No,
true?
I think that might have been Liz's suggestion. I'm not sure, but I mean, I think the point of it was that we everything's going on at the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and we don't have an opportunity to follow along. I mean, we do, everyone has that opportunity, but realistically, all 40 members are not sitting there at every meeting watching it all. And so I think the basis behind this committee was that they would be sending at least, 2 members from, and they have a larger committee because all 8 don't necessarily have to go to all, but then you could say like, hey, this week it's Jeff and Marcy get to go to, Board of Finance, and next week it's Karen and Mark get to go to Board of Selectmen or whatever. So, and then they would report back. Now, I mean, I think that's helpful, but I could see where it could get political. Like you could say like, oh, at the Board of Finance meeting, Lori said, and and it could get out of hand. I kind of feel like there's a need though to get like what's happening, like how, like just simply like, oh, there was a lot of discussion on this topic and they ended up voting 5-4. That's all. Like, but I don't need to know like so-and-so said this and so-and-so said that. No, I just want this topic was a high topic of discussion. It's worth having all these 40 members of the body maybe looking into it a little bit more before we come before us, just so you know. So I'm torn on that, but then I'm also torn on the fact that, so say you guys did go to the Board of Finance meetings all week this week, and then at our regular meeting, you're going to report this, and then it's going to add how much time to our regular meeting or committee meeting, and I'm going to be going there like, oh, so
Yeah.
I don't know,
Okay.
so I'm torn on it myself, but I can see the positives and the negatives of it.
Okay, thank you. Mark, do you have a view on this?
I mean, yeah, I agree with Josh and Marcy. I think we just are going back to what we already had with the other 5 committees. So It's gonna be a committee that's doing nothing,
Mm,
or committees that
okay.
are doing nothing.
Anybody else have any comment on it before we take a vote? Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that we remove these two committees and we remain with the only standing committee would be L&A. Anyone want to second that?
I think we have a motion.
Yeah,
and a second.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I think-
Josh, you made
yeah,
it. You made a
yeah.
motion.
Josh made it and I seconded it.
You're right, I'm sorry.
No worries.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so we'll do that.
But we do have an SLMC still, right? Does that go here or does that go somewhere
Yes,
else?
that should. I think that's a different
Section.
part of the
Yeah,
rules.
different section, yeah. Okay. Shall be one standing committee.
I think it's the next one, Josh.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, well,
Committee on
Okay.
committee.
yeah, that's right.
No, because special committees too can be created.
Yeah, I know. I'm just,
Yeah. Okay. So special committees as it determines necessary. Do we need to say that anyone can make a motion for that, or it would have to be the moderator proposing it, or just leave it?
I didn't we talk about the moderator having the ability to
Yeah.
propose that?
Yeah, we did. Okay.
Can I just comment on that real quick?
Yeah.
So like how I thought it would kind of organically happen is that like somebody like John Kuhn would come to the moderator and say, I'm interested in forming an energy committee. And then the moderator would put it on the agenda to form an energy committee. And at that point, people would vote on whether or not they wanted to form it. So maybe there wasn't enough interest in forming an energy committee and that would get voted down. And it'd be like, sorry, John, you're out of luck. There's no energy committee. But then maybe there's a lot of interest and then we're like, yeah, let's vote for an energy committee. And then that would get voted on by the body and then that would go to SLMC to form. So that's kind of how I envisioned it. So the moderator would put it on the agenda, but not really necessarily initiate it. If that makes sense.
I was struggling with that too. It sounded like we have to let you have to be the one to propose it or we can't do it. And that's not really what you
No,
meant.
I think any member of the body can propose through the moderator a
Mhm.
committee of interest, which will go to the body for a vote to form the committee or to form a committee, which will go to SLMC to form the members on the committee, something like that.
So
Yeah.
can I just ask like sort of a clarifying question? And Marcy, you said something, right? So I'm seeing like two different types of committees then. So I'm thinking like a special committee is something that may have to do with say like, hey, there's a proposal to evaluate like the rebuild of Dwight's school, right?
Yeah.
That would have gone to one of the previous standing committees. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Your John Kuhn example, to me, and you use the words like committee of interest. So I think there's two separate.
I agree with what you're
committees.
saying. There are two different types of committees, but I think they
Yeah.
could go through the same process. And it's not to say that the moderator couldn't say, hey, look, we need this committee because we need to have somebody looking at Dwight, right? Let's say like we really need to form a Dwight review committee, let's just say. And so we really need this committee, or the administration has asked us to look at this, or something like that. It could come through that. But I think we had talked about getting people involved in what they want to be involved in. And I think that one way to do it is to form committees. I actually, like last week or the week before, I was at an event with a colleague from the RTM in Westport, and he said that they had formed an IT committee. I didn't get to talk to him enough about it to know exactly what the heck that meant, but like I'm like, oh, that might have actually helped me with dealing with like Dave Kelly. Like, oh, we have an issue. We're not getting our emails. Why leave that all to like the moderator? Like something like that, as you were talking about decreasing the work of the moderator, so something that we come up with that's a problem, it just kind of organically, like there's a need for this, whether it come from a member of the body, the moderator, the administration, or whatever, it would go through the moderator to put it on the agenda. And then it would come to a vote about whether it's really a need. Like, because I don't want to start forming frivolous committees either, right? Like,
Right.
someone wants to form the fashion design committee. Like, okay, come on, like, whatever. But but maybe,
No, that makes sense. What you said makes sense. Yep, that's fine. That makes sense.
What can I raise a point? If we're going to do this, shouldn't a person who wants to form a committee one idea is to have that sort of a co-sponsor or a second already set. So two people want to do it versus just someone coming up with an idea. But either way, whether it's one or two, that they come up with a reason and a justification paragraph or something that we talk about with everything we do, instead of, I want to form a committee, but have your reasoning. I know it'll be presented in front of the body will vote, but ahead of time, as we're asking anyone to now present to us, whether you're an appointment or you're a bonding request. Okay, you want to form a committee? Well, what is the justification for forming the committee? What are you going to do? So there's a little more background versus just someone saying, "Hey, I want to form a committee." So to do it, if you're intending to do it, you have the time and effort. Then you can put together a quick summary of what this is and why we're doing it. I think that's important.
Yeah,
that's
makes
fair.
sense, Jeff. Yep.
And you're saying two people, so essentially you have two sponsors to sponsor.
It's an
the committee.
idea.
I think that's
just to make sure
that
that
might
it's
not
not
be a
just
bad
one
idea.
solo guy.
Yeah,
just
I think that's fair.
I
And
got a
those two
sponsor and a
people,
co-sponsor.
would legitimately be assumed to have automatic passage onto the committee somehow.
I would think if they're both ready to
I mean,
co-sponsor
unless it's
it.
proposed by the moderator, though. Like if it,
Yeah.
well, I guess if it's proposed by the moderator would just ask somebody like, "Hey, Jeff, are you interested in doing this?" Or I don't like. That's where it would be difficult if
Yeah.
there's somewhere like of a need versus an interest. But an interest committee.
Well, the SLMC would populate it ultimately, but I'm just saying to come
But
up with the
maybe
idea, the
giving
formation
preference.
of it.
Yeah, but maybe giving preference to the sponsors of the suggestion if they so choose,
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I think that makes sense. If someone's going to be the one co-sponsor of something out of a group of 40, they probably should be on the committee, I would assume. Or, yeah.
Does this include committees to form ordinances, or is that a separate thing?
I think it should. I think that should be more public than it is, personally. Like maybe the meeting should be noticed of the group that's drafting the ordinance and that sort of thing, in my opinion.
Josh, I think we talked about a separate section about ordinances, and I know we already have one right now, number 19. But I think we need to have a totally separate point about ordinances, the formation of them, the purpose, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yes, that concept would probably play out here too. Now, these days, we have ordinances that have 10 people supporting. In the past, it used to be sponsor and co-sponsor, maybe a couple co-sponsors. That's fine. They've gotten bigger and all that. So does that mean all 10 people are on the committee? That's something we just got to think about. But for these non-ordinance related committees, energy committee, the committee to study Dwight School, probably could be one and a second person co-sponsors, and they would likely be on that committee. How many members do you make these committees? 5 members, 7 members, 9 members? That would be part of, I would think, the proposal that goes before the body. We propose forming an energy committee, 9 members. Like you put your own little charter together of sorts, even if it is a temporary committee. So there's a little burden and work, and the onus is on the person or people who want to put together these committees. to put the justification together and a little bit of the framework of what those committees are. They have to have a concept versus just throwing it out there. It just makes it more, if you're going to go to that distance of putting it together, that means you're probably pretty serious about it. I think ordinance is kind of a separate beast, but.
Okay, I took the liberty of kind of writing what I think we were discussing on 12. Upon the request of at least 2 members, that the RTM consider establishing a special committee, which request shall be submitted to the moderator with a description of the proposed committee. The moderator shall place the proposal on the warning for a vote by the body.
Mm-hmm.
And then this was already here really about the SLMC populating it. I don't know if anyone has any changes to the rest of that or.
Yeah.
Okay. Quorum is a simple majority.
Can somebody explain it back to 12 for a second?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble with. In the event that no majority or minority party exists as composed, the committee on committees shall consist of 2 members from each of the 2 parties with the highest number of members and 1 member as selected by the first selectman. I have no idea what that means.
So that's 20 to 20, 40 person
20,
body.
20.
It's 20 to 20. You get 2 and 2. Who's the 5th member? Consists of 2 members because normally, remember, it's supposed to be 5 people. But if it's
Mhm.
2, if it's an even split, then this has just been in the rules. Then the first selectman or
Oh, I
selectwoman
see. Yeah.
I got you.
gets to choose that 5th member.
The wording's a little awkward, but I get it now. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
As
why it
composed
says
is
as
weird.
composed. I don't really know why that is there.
Should we just
Party
take that
exists
out?
as composed. Yeah, unless Karen is a legal
see.
professional. You see a
In the
reason
event
for
of no
that.
majority or minority
How
party.
about saying it this way? In the event of a tie, and
Exactly.
no majority party exists, comma, then
How about if no majority party exists in the body, which I think is their word for the RTM.
I think that's really hard to understand. That
Mm.
no majority or minority party exists. What does that mean? We give up being we do Westport's thing. We no longer have political parties involved. Like, what does it mean? I think the tie
You could
is
say equal members then.
Yeah.
Yeah, equal members or something like that. So you don't use majority or minority.
yeah.
Yeah.
the sentence gets
I
confused.
mean, I guess-
you say
yeah.
majority and minority because one implies the existence of another. So when you say that neither
Yeah.
exists, it doesn't make a lot of
Right.
sense.
Then maybe you say majority because what if an independent party candidate gets elected
Right.
to the RTM?
Yeah.
So maybe you just say in the event there is no majority party, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That no party has a majority
Mhm.
Okay.
of the body.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. Anything else on
Do
12?
we label this the special legislative management, the SLMC, anywhere? I'm just looking.
Yeah, but it's
Because
not
we call it committee
capitalized.
on
It might want to
committees.
be initial caps on that.
Because
Yeah,
I don't
it's
think it
all-
should be even committee on committees. We don't have other committees to be the committee over. Maybe
Oh, that's true. Whoops.
it's kind of superfluous.
And we don't call it that
Or-
anyway.
We don't. I think just take that. It's why even have it? We don't even refer to it.
That went out years ago.
Yeah,
That-
I
that
take
name,
it
you
out. It's
mean?
dated.
Yeah.
Consists of 2 members.
Like I said before, committee on committee. Let's get it out of there.
Yeah.
To be chosen by special leaders of management to consist of 2 members of the minority party. Okay.
No,
Yep.
keeps jumping around.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Thank you. That helps.
All right. Quorum, that's pretty straightforward. This really is LNA, right?
Yeah.
I could just say the standing committee, I guess.
Why'd you just say
Okay,
that?
hold on.
Yeah.
We have never done a 2/3 vote for that, have we? It's always been a straight.
Well,
Yeah.
we sort of did with the cameras just last month, didn't we?
Oh,
Oh,
that
that's
was
We did. Yep, we did.
I got this wrong.
Hey, we didn't vote 2/3 vote on the cameras last month. You mean
We-
on the
we had a-
parking authority?
Oh, no, it was it wasn't the
It
parking
was the
authority?
parking authority.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
the cameras. The cameras went through the whole process the way it
Oh,
should
you're right. You're
go
right. It was
through.
parking. It was parking authority. You know, we had a vote at the beginning of the meeting to even discuss. I don't think that was necessary.
no, but this
Right.
says LNA may hold an item in committee by a vote
Right.
of 2/3 of the members present. We've held it in committee by a vote of the majority of
That's
LNA.
true. That's true. Yeah.
So we probably violated the rule.
I think
Yeah.
all of our decisions are now null and void, and
Oh, don't go
Can't
there.
back. All sorts
Back
of
to the
implications.
We're retracting all our ordinances. That's
Oh
it.
boy. Oh boy. Can of worms was opened.
So
do we want to
standing,
keep it to 2/3? Do we want 2/3 requirement to hold it in LNA?
well, it could be controversial, right? If some people want that to get out for a vote to the body and others want to hold it and maybe kill it or just postpone it.
Yep.
Maybe it should
And
be
now
two-
that you have proportional representation, you got to have 2/3.
Okay. Fair enough. Yep.
If you want to take out proportional representation, then I think a majority is fine.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Maybe we do 15 and then it's almost 9 o'clock. We can
Yeah.
plan
Yes,
the next meeting.
Yeah.
that would be good.
Yep.
Standing committee reports to referred items on the warning or elsewhere, which doesn't really apply.
Just LNA.
Yeah,
I
this
guess,
is,
right?
yeah, just on
Should LNA report out on? I guess it's not really. We usually just say we held it or it's coming before you next month. We don't
Yeah.
really report it.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we don't need that.
Should we be, I mean, I guess my question would be, should be reporting on that? I mean, isn't that kind of what we would want the committee to do?
Yeah.
To report on it?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I would be convinced of that.
Every month?
Having it reported.
Well, it would only
Because
be
it's
when
the one
there's,
committee.
yeah, and it wouldn't necessarily be every month, because if there's nothing before it, then there's nothing to report. But if there's anything before it, then there should
Yes.
be, a report.
Yes.
But don't
Yes,
forget,
100%.
we see the ordinance before the body has considered it. So for us to give a report, we almost have to give a full report of what the ordinance is, what its intents are. I mean, we're kind of putting the cart before the horse a little bit, because
Yeah.
that committee's going to want to present their ordinance. They don't want us to present it.
Well,
Josh,
I
what if
agree
we
with
said with the exception of ordinances?
But that's all we do.
That's all we're doing.
I would
Yeah,
say,
that's-
so Josh, I would say, like, you don't necessarily have to give a rundown of everything that the ordinance is, but your report might be 2 minutes that, LNA was submitted, an ordinance which involved the placement of, surveillance cameras, at schools, which will monitor, speeding. We've done an initial review. We have some questions for, the sponsors and the police, and they will be getting back to us with more detail, which we'll be able to share with the body. And that's your report.
Yep.
Done.
Just the status really, rather than the
Yep.
substance.
Or what if it's only the second ordinance meeting? In other words, the first one is supposed to be form, the second one's substance, and the third one goes to the full body for voting. Maybe we only do a report at the second, when it comes to us at the second meeting, right? Because the first one is about form anyways. People don't really know about it. It hasn't been presented by the ordinance committee yet. You know how we get it ahead of everyone else anyways. Maybe that's not the meeting we report out on. It's the second meeting
I'm not sure
for
I'm
an
following.
ordinance.
Yeah.
So you know how an ordinance is, it comes to LNA first before anybody.
Yeah.
Generally then doesn't get discussed in front of the body that month. Second month, it comes before LNA for content, right? And
I'm not
it,
sure.
yeah.
What do you mean by form and content? I'm not
well,
sure.
it's always been sort of a 3-step process. The first month is we don't do it anymore, but it used to be.
Hmm.
It's about form. Like, does is this laid out right? Is this answer the questions? Is this have all the right information in it? So not about substance. It's more, is this new ordinance structured properly? Does it have the right structure and the right components? And that's when some initial feedback is given by the LNA to the ordinance drafters. And then it comes back again the next month in front of, I think it's actually all committees, right? And that's where we look at for substance, as does every other committee. So we just get that first look to look at the form of it, the structure of it. That's
But we don't-
historically how it's been. Yeah.
We haven't done that for the time I've been
No,
on it.
we really haven't. We haven't. It's just been in front of LNA first, and then in front of all the other committees second, and then third month in front of all the committees again, and that's when we vote. But it's
So-
not voted on until the third month.
I think, Jeff, what you're saying is the LNA report would happen at the
Yep.
meeting where the full body is hearing that
Yes,
ordinance
yes.
item. So in other
Yeah.
words, I was
Yes.
saying we'd be out in front, but we really wouldn't be out in front because we wouldn't report the following week after LNA. We'd report the following month. And it
Right.
would be, maybe there would be a presentation first by the ordinance committee, and then LNA might comment on what LNA's edits were, or if there were any. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, sure, we could do it that way. All I'm saying is when it first comes before LNA and no one else in the body gets to really see it, right? Because we're looking at it in its first raw form and we're commenting on, we're providing our initial comments. That then doesn't get generally, it's not voted on by the full body. It's not even looked at by the other committees and therefore doesn't go to the full body. It's kind of this separate preamble meeting with LNA when an ordinance comes before us. The whole body doesn't start looking at it until month 2.
But they
So-
get it.
so-
first
And
month.
right.
So
Don't
Jeff,
they
what
get
you
it?
basically what you're saying is the report should be ordinance process based rather than say what LNA may have done the previous month, if you follow me, right?
Yeah, because I think if
Because
we
in my
start comment,
yeah, because in my
yeah.
because in
If
my
we start
example-
commenting to the body on the form, they're going to be like, well, wait a minute, the form.
Right. Okay.
And we can also right now in this meeting, not today, but our next one, really iron out that ordinance process. The fact that we lay it over 2 additional meetings, that was a decision that years ago was determined by the RTM founders or writers. We can change that process too. And I think that's an important topic the next time we meet is to talk about the ordinance process. So maybe we're putting the cart before the horse a little bit because it is just ordinances that LNA deals with. And yet we're trying to write the LNA reporting structure. And we haven't even gotten to the topic, which is ordinances. So maybe we circle back to 15.
Yeah, well,
Suggestion?
what you said makes sense. So I was thinking more along the lines like, in theory, you could have a couple of different things come to LNA on one night. So it may be like
You
the
could.
second, this sort of like the second reading, if you will, for one, but then something
Yes.
new gets introduced. So my
Yes.
thought was then, okay, well then, the next month, Josh, as the chairman of the committee, gets up and he gives like his intro to, this came before us, yada yada, it's brand new, and then more detailed report on the one that we may have already been working with on a month. But what I hear you saying is really the report is going to be based on after LNA has an opportunity to review over the course of a month, and then that's how it works. And that makes sense. I'm
Yeah,
totally
but remember, this whole process for ordinances will change now because if we don't have other
depending on
committees,
whatever we change, right? I'm just saying
we're not going to have other committees anyways. This might be
Yeah.
shortened to 2 months, but yeah,
well,
yeah.
based on
We can
whatever-
circle
yeah,
back
makes
on that
sense.
specifically.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm gonna stop right above this then, because we're kind of, I think that's still open what we're doing in terms of reports. To me, it
Yep.
seems like when LNA gets it, we really, the first time we get it and consider it, we usually go through it and often we might
We
pass
do.
it out that day. So I'm not sure what the report would say, but yeah, Marcy?
Yeah,
I
so
think-
wait, I'm just confused and I might have missed this because I was distracted for a moment, but when is LNA actually meeting? Like physically, when are their meetings? How are they noticed? Is it routine? Is it per the moderator's discretion when an ordinance is proposed to the moderator, then the moderator calls the chair and the chair calls a meeting,
Mhm.
as, you know, as per everyone's schedule? Does it have to be on a certain night of the week? Does it fall on an RTM meeting day? I don't know. When does that committee meet?
That's a good question.
Mm.
Yep,
Yep.
it is.
Maybe there's a way we could have a regular time that's held by the committee and then it's used as needed or something.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I guess if it's a
That would
standing committee. Sorry,
Because
go
that would
ahead.
determine people's availability, right? Like
Mhm.
maybe if you made it one of the Mondays, that's not one of our 2 meetings, like,
Mhm.
and not the first, maybe the second Monday of the month or
Mhm.
something.
That's
'Cause then you know
three
that,
meetings. Yeah,
well, yeah,
yeah.
it's an intensive committee to be
3
on,
Mondays.
but that's the
Yeah.
responsibility you're taking by signing on to that.
Right.
I think that works. To me, having a pre-scheduled meeting works better because one, I know when that is always going to be, right? So I can adjust my other schedule as best as possible. Plus, I'd
Yeah.
rather start discussing an ordinance at 7 o'clock at night rather than 10:30 at night.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I think that works much better.
And you
Yeah.
know that the members are available in general on Mondays, right? Like, I mean,
Mhm.
I think we have our party meetings on the first Monday of the month. We have the, so
Yeah.
generally, I mean, obviously there'll be conflicts when there's a holiday on a Monday and then we have to move the RTM meeting, or I don't know. I mean, you could say something like generally on the second Monday of the month.
Mhm.
And then the chair of the committee could cancel the meeting if there's nothing to discuss.
What do you, I'll put it here maybe. What, I can't remember if we say in here that we meet on the third Monday of the month. We must say that in here.
You don't say the third Monday, you do say the fourth or whatever.
Okay.
It does list
fourth.
the regular meeting. It says nothing at all about the committee or about the other
Yeah.
meeting, the informational meeting, nothing, which needs to
We-
be changed, but
It
yeah.
does. Yeah. Um, okay. Okay, so I think that's probably good for tonight, and we need to put another meeting on our calendars. So let me stop sharing. Um, um, let's see. Maybe 2 weeks. 25th, 26th, maybe. And does that work for people?
Yeah, I'm good either of those days.
Okay.
Yeah.
We
I'm
have
away
our
that
meet-
week.
we have
Oh,
our- Should we shoot for next week?
yeah.
We have our meeting on the 24th and then the 31st, so
Oh, yeah.
I'm okay. I'm okay doing the 19th next week, the 19th,
shoot for the
if that-
19th.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I can do
Wait,
that.
next
Yep.
week or the
next
The
week,
night-
week from tonight.
When are you away, Betsy?
I'm away the week of the 24th.
Yeah, so the
So it'd be
19th
next week, I think we're
work
talking.
for everybody?
I have meetings next week.
Oh,
Okay.
Do you think you could do the 19th, Betsy, or is that?
No, I have a meeting that night.
Okay.
how about the 18th?
Can we also not do it on a Board of Finance night too?
Mm,
Just with budgets coming up.
yeah. I don't have those on
So
my
there's
calendar. I don't know.
I think
people
I
do.
have that. Let's see. Let me see. See if I can get the schedule here.
So we'd have to go. Oh, so is the RTM meeting the 24th, not the 31st? Yeah, it would be.
The
Right?
24th is the committee and the full meeting's the 31st.
Thank
Right.
you. I don't know why I don't have the committee. Oh, okay.
because Monday's St. Patrick's Day.
Right.
Um, that's right. We talked about that, didn't we? So it sounds like it might have to look at the week of March 31st. I know it's really, I see Marcy's expression.
The
That's when all the
second,
budget meetings are.
I
That's why my
know.
expression was that way. I mean, like, well, no, it's the week after.
No,
Never
they're
mind. I
the
was
following
thinking-
week.
Yeah.
how about the second?
Yeah,
Don't
that's,
do that. That's the Board of Finance vote.
Oh,
They vote on the second.
want to do April Fool's Day then?
I could do that. Can you guys do that?
What day is this?
April 1st?
Tuesday.
April
The
1st.
Tuesday.
Anyone have an
Budget vote is
issue
the
with that?
second. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, Josh, Mark, you're good with that?
yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So April 1st.
It's the second I'm going to Midnight North at Fairfield Theater Company. So
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Should we do it at 7?
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
good time.
Okay.
It's virtual still, or
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think for
think-
this virtual works well.
Yeah. I think that's right. Okay. So Betsy, you can do that notice and that agenda when the time comes, but okay.
Yes.
Don't you have to vote on that? Sorry.
Oh, probably. That's probably a good point. Can I have a motion that we're going to have a special meeting on April 1st? I
I
think
make a
Josh-
motion that the next meeting of this committee shall occur on Tuesday, April 1st at 7 p.m.
Thank
virtually?
you, Ken.
virtually.
Okay, and Josh seconds it. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Mark, you're in favor, right?
I said aye.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yes, I did.
Okay. I think that's it. Can we have a motion to adjourn? Josh, seconded by Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Night,
Thanks,
everybody.
Karen.
Bye.
Aye.
Bye-bye.